Well, welcome back everybody then to the Haas playthrough in Motorsport Manager in the Fire mod. And we need to start making some progress. I really would like to see if we can beat McLaren or Renault. We're only, 5 or 8 points off. A good team result with both drivers in the points, and I reckon we can catch them. Pretty unlucky race last time out. Obviously, we should have got a lot more points than we did. We really didn't play the strategy too well with Magnussen, and then obviously Grosjean threw away a great position as well. So we really got quite a bit of work to do now. So let's get on with today's episode now that we're back up and running. If you haven't seen the update on the channel at the beginning of the week, I've had a few problems with my PC, which is why there's not been an episode for almost a week, but hopefully we'll be back on schedule now. No mistakes once again from the pit crew. Roman, unfortunately, has broken his foot thanks to that crash last time out. So, I think I've made my decision. I think we're going to bring in Leclerc as the reserve driver, and I think we're going to try and get Carlos Sainz for the main seat. And I don't see why we shouldn't just try and get Leclerc now. Because if we can get him quick enough, then he can have a couple of races instead of... has he got a Haas thing on there? I don't remember Leclerc driving for Haas. Maybe he has. I don't remember that happening. I'm sure someone can correct me, but I can't remember him actually. Maybe he's done a practice session for Haas that I've forgotten about. That's quite fitting, really. His picture's got him in the Haas overalls. But we're going to just try and get him in if we can. And then he can replace Grosjean while he's got a broken foot. And we may even leave him in. Put him in. I don't know about Sainz. I'm still considering it. The two options are putting Sainz in for Grosjean and training up Leclerc for a few seasons to hopefully replace Magnussen eventually. Or we just put Leclerc straight in for Grosjean and we bring in Ferrucci as the reserve driver. We'll do one of the two anyway. But we're going to make him an offer. So he's currently being offered $54,000 per race with his existing contract in Formula 2. So 154 is the lowest we can offer him, so we'll try that. He shouldn't expect too much considering we will offer him a long contract. He doesn't mind who pays out the buyout clause, so he can pay that. I'm sure he's got sponsors that can deal with that, and he's not bothered about signing on bonuses, so hopefully he'll go for 154. I don't mind paying a little bit more for him though, to be honest. But he will, to be honest, become our most expensive driver, because we're currently paying 93,000 for Roman and 62,000 for K-Mag. So did that actually just go through? It did, yes. It's strange that we're paying Magnussen and Grosjean so little, and yet we couldn't offer Leclerc any less. It seems a bit strange. So we've got a scouting report back on Jenson Button. Fairly decent driver. His potential is good. Doesn't have the highest marketability. He's quite cheap considering though. I really want JP in this team, but it's probably not the best thing to do for the team going forward. That would just be for nostalgia's sake, really. Right, Grosjean's adaptability. Prove them wrong, like changeable conditions. Know you're great. Personality trait, happy. Sure you're great. Let's just keep him happy till the end of the season. He's going to be out in a few races' time, so we'll just keep him as happy as possible, I guess. He might not even be racing for the next few races anyway, if we can get Leclerc in quick enough. Once again, my voice already going. It really is a pain in the arse. Right, let's do the pit crew. We're going to put in Ayala into the tyre slot. We need someone else on the tyres, probably Cartes. And Fritz needs to be changed out as well. Have we got anyone else for the tyres? I guess Fujiniwa for Fritz, and we really need to swap out Liesk as well. So we'll put in Cronky for him, and that all looks good. Right. Was there another scouting report? I think there was. Alex Lynn. Okay, yeah. I've always wondered why Lynn hasn't never got his chance in Formula 1. He always looked like a really promising British driver, but he just never got his chance with the Red Bull Young Driver programme. And obviously reserve driver for Williams now. Doesn't really look too promising in comparison to someone like Leclerc or Ferrucci. So I don't think we'll be going for him, but it's good to know that we got that report done anyway. Right, car repairs are now finished. So let's get moving with our current parts. I think, had we agreed? Yeah, that gearbox is going to be the last part we make this season. I think that's what we'd agreed anyway. So we'll keep continuing to improve everything that we are, apart from this front wing, which will change to the brakes, I think. Reliability looking good across the board, really. We'll just keep improving the performance of the engine and the rear wing. We want mostly on performance, so we'll go a 15.5 split. And can I just get rid of that bloody marker? It keeps piecing me off. There we go. Right, it's quite a long way till the next race, actually. So I think we've got a good chance of maybe getting Leclerc in time. New vote started. Reverse Drivers' Championship position grids. Hey. No qualifying session grids are decided by reversing the Drivers' Championship standings. Oh god, not this. We had this at the beginning of the single season playthrough. I am well against that. I'm sure most people are. We'll use our power just in case, but that's a terrible idea. Probably the most exciting part of a Formula 1 weekend. You want to get rid of it. No. Right, good. No, one of the guys right at the back. I mean, that probably would have benefited us, to be fair, to begin with. But I really don't think that's right for the sport. So, thankfully, that has been rejected. And we'll see what Leclerc says then. Wants to renegotiate. He's really not happy with that money. He's insulted by his status. So he doesn't want to be a reserve driver. So if we bring him in, we have to bring him in for Grosjean immediately. I think considering Grosjean's going to be out for 5 weeks, I really wanted Sainz though, to be honest. Should we just go for it? I think we go for it. Let's go for an equal status driver then. And we'll bump him up to... It's far below what he wanted. We're only going to get one shot at this. So we'll go 309. And that's enough for him. We'll see. Means getting rid of Grosjean, but we were planning to do that anyway. Okay. What does he say? He's accepted it. Right, we've probably offered him way too much money then. But not much we can do now. Let's just bring him in. He's a better driver than Grosjean. And he's definitely got a lot more potential. It's going to cost us a fair bit to break Grosjean's contract, but I'm not too bothered about that. We've got some money in the bank. So we'll bring him on board for Grosjean then. Beautiful. Right, we have our first new driver then. And promising. I think this does allow us to maybe bring in Ferrucci as the reserve driver now. We said we'd keep Magnussen for another season just to keep all you guys happy that are big fans of his. But feeling much better about being here in the team now, so I'm not listening to any offers anymore. Well, you've just arrived. I should hope not, mate. You've got a pretty long contract. So yeah, we're going to keep Magnussen for another season at least. just to keep you guys happy. And then we'll bring maybe Ferrucci in as the reserve driver to train him up, and then we can get a pretty major driver in for Magnussen next season, maybe. Okay, he's already got a modelling tryout. A lucky little guy, isn't he? He's just almost trebled his wages in a week. And got a modelling contract at the same time. It's alright for some, isn't it? He's not a big fan of our rear wing right now. Sorry, K-Mag. Just going to have to put up with it for the moment. It's a long old break between these races. Is this a summer break? Monza normally isn't the summer break race, but maybe it is this time. Right, scout report finished on Giovinazzi. Has good potential as well. See, he'd be great as a reserve driver. He's a dangerous driver though, which is very true. If anyone saw him in the Sauber the last few races, the first few races of last season. But we'll think about our reserve at the end of the season. We've got the main change out of the way, really. K-Mag's fine, racing with dodgy neck. I don't mind that at all. So as usual, we will go 663. And I think everything on the car, I think that gearbox actually might be ready. 73% is quite a big increase though. I think we will give that to K-Mag, see what he can do with it. Give him a good chance of representing against Leclerc. It'll be interesting to see how these two do against each other. Their first race weekend, and this will be a bit of a better comparison as to whether we should be keeping Magnussen. And also how good Leclerc is already. So it's going to be a pretty interesting weekend, and it's going to be a pretty long episode because that took a while. But as always, I shall get straight into practice, and I'll be back with you shortly for qualifying. Okay, we're into qualifying then, and a pretty tricky practice session, dry and wet. And as you can see, now that we're into qualifying, it's very wet indeed. I split the strategies. I put Leclerc out on intermediates, and I put Magnussen out on wets. Not seeing that it was obviously going to dry out considerably at the end of the session. So I doubt either of these laps are really going to matter. But still be interesting to see the times. I guess Magnussen should be a lot quicker in these conditions on the wet tyres. Now, one big problem with Leclerc is his feedback is down at 4. Even our reserve driver Calderon is a better feedback at 8. I put Leclerc in for the first race just purely for, I think that's what you would do. You wouldn't bring a new driver halfway through a season and not put them in for the practice session. I know it makes no difference in the game sense of things, but I think for future, until Leclerc can raise that stat up, we're probably going to be using Calderon in the practice sessions. In terms of setup, we were 94 for Leclerc, 98 for Magnussen. So with better parts on Magnussen's car, and a better setup, I would expect Magnussen to be better this weekend, but it'll be interesting to see how the two of them compare in their first head-to-head. So the first 2 times are on the board. Magnussen obviously up there with the wet tyre runners, Leclerc back with the intermediates. The field also splitting their strategies there. Obviously the wet tyres were the better tyres to be on, but it looks like it's going to be dry at the end of the session. And yeah, there's no more rain to come, so we will wait until the end of the session, send them both back out again. It'll be one flying run on the super softs, on the softs even. This weekend is the softest compound, and we'll see what they can do anyway. But yeah, I really didn't expect to be having someone else in the car before the end of the season, but it just kind of happened this episode. I'm kind of happy we did. I'm really excited to see how Leclerc will get on, and hopefully he could be the difference in making up those little points to try and catch up McLaren and Renault before the end of the season. Right, so let's send our boys out then on the soft tyres and see what they can do. pressure will be on with only one flying lap to do. And yeah, I really don't know which way this comparison would go. As I say, I would expect Magnussen to beat him this weekend, just because everything is in his favour. He is slightly injured, but that shouldn't make too much of a difference. But Leclerc is, as we all know, one of the most highly rated drivers coming through, yet to have a Formula 1 seat, which of course will change. No, it won't change next year, will it? But yeah, apparently Ferrari are potentially going to replace Raikkonen with Leclerc next season, at the end of next year. But that's a conversation for a podcast, not for this episode. And there's 2 tenths between them, and as we know, this is an incredibly close field, and that 2 tenths is enough for 6 places difference. So Magnussen gets himself into the top 10 with P9, and Leclerc gets P15 on debut then. So not too bad, and to be honest, I'm not too disappointed. Just 2 tenths between them. So a lot of that could be down to the setup and the better gearbox that Magnussen's got. We've got to remember we need to manage that gearbox that Magnussen's got, because it's a little bit lower on the reliability side than I would like. So that's yet another thing to manage throughout the race. Right, what have we got for the weather then? We've got some rain and then drying off. Intermediates, I would agree, it's going to take quite a while to get back to dry tyres, so I think both cars can start on the intermediate tyres. We're going to split strategies. I'm going to go medium and race trim for Leclerc, and I'm going to go... actually, I forgot we had push to the limit with Magnussen. Now, it does remove the red zone. We do have to look after this gearbox, but there was a discussion after last time that with this new trait for Magnussen, we could potentially not take that couple of laps of fuel out that we've been doing. Just so he can push further. I think even with the gearbox down at 73%, if there's no red zone, we still can probably put a bit more fuel in. Leclerc, on the other hand, we will continue our strategy of taking a couple of laps out, just so that if we don't want to push the engine, we can save that little bit of fuel, a little bit of weight, and make ourselves a little bit quicker throughout the race. So let's get underway, shall we? It's been a long last episode so far, so appreciate if you guys have stuck with us to this point, and we will once again go on the hunt for some points, this time at Monza. It says Milan, it's clearly Monza. They've almost identically copied the track. They've just put the start finish line at a different point basically, but it's a good start for Magnussen. He's up to P7. Leclerc has made a mistake on turn 1 then, and that's put him to the rear of the field, which is a bit disappointing. Hopefully he can recover from here. It is, of course, his first full Formula 1 race for Haas Grand Prix, so I'm sure there'll be a little bit of nerves for him. Let's kick up to 2-speed then. We'll go back to medium fuel Leclerc, and we'll stay on high fuel for Magnussen and just burn a little bit extra to begin with. Now we can use that boost then, as everybody else does, and we're a little bit later using it than everybody else, so wait for things to shake back out, and Magnussen regains that 7th position. Leclerc up to 17th, just dropped back to 8th now. Right, now we need to go back to neutral on the tyres, and we'll see what the wear is like. Obviously they need to go to around about lap 10 by the look of it, which they should do without a problem, I would think. Let's go on up to 4 speed, as there's not much we can do for the moment. Magnussen onto the back of Verstappen then, looking very racy today, it must be said. Obviously having him pushing with the fuel will help. Once again, I need to see if there's a setting in Shadow Play that I can move the recording symbol or hide it, because once again I can't really see his fuel level, which doesn't help. But we'll keep pushing for the moment. Obviously we need to keep an eye on that gearbox, which has already dropped to 68%, but without the red zone we should be okay. Leclerc's still stuck in traffic. We're losing tyre temps a bit, so we'll go to push with both cars, and Looks like they will do another 5 laps or so, which should easily get us into the dry weather. And it's going to be a case of which tyres we fancy taking for the final stint then. Where we can get to the end, sorry, on just one set of dry tyres. Right, I want Leclerc to make a bit of progress, so once we get onto the main straight, I'm going to use what he's got of his burst, and that should get him past Ericsson nicely, and hopefully he can keep that position this time. And he has an epic turn 1, and he's right onto the back of Alonso and Ricciardo now. Right, back on board with Magnussen. He's holding 7th, and he's holding a nice gap ahead of Kvyat behind. As per usual, we just need to manage his tyres properly. Because I feel we've always got a car in this position, racing well in the first half of the race. And that's when it's the second half of the race that we're making all the mistakes, so that's when we need to concentrate. I think we're going to go back to neutral on the fuel level. Yeah, because I think it's on about minus 0.6 at the moment. Oh, we'll have to check that by stopping shadow play at some point. Right, I think now is a good time to stop. So we'll have 22 laps to the end. I don't think we can do that on a one stop. So I think we're going to have to stop twice. So I think we'll go mediums. And then if they last long enough, we can go softs at the end, or we'll go medium again. Just leaves everything open for us. And everything else is okay. So in he comes. Hopefully we'll get a clean stop. Leclerc will obviously have to go a lap later. Again onto the medium tyres. His life is showing a little bit more. I think I'm going to go soft tyres for Leclerc. See if we can make some progress early on to get him through the field. Because I feel he's got a lot more pace than he's showing at the moment. No mistakes from Magnussen. Those pit stops are still a little slow. We need to improve the crew when we can. Obviously Formula 1 pit stop should be further down towards the 3-second mark at least. I noticed the other day there was an achievement in this as well to beat the world record of 1.98, so that's what we're aiming for. That's the best pit stops we can get. Leclerc is back out in 16th place then, and we're going to use that boost straight away to get him back past Ocon. Magnussen on the other hand has come back out in that 7th place, once again comfortably ahead of the chasing pack. I think he's lost a little bit of ground to Stroll and Verstappen ahead, but at the moment he's looking okay. So Leclerc has now passed Alonso as well. Just use that little bit of boost to try and defend from Ocon. This is what we want from him. He's got these soft tyres on now. He's going to have to go to mediums at the end, potentially. So this is the stint he needs to make up the ground if he wants to get some points on his World Championship debut here, which would be pretty stunning, it's got to be said. We're overheating quite badly though, so I think we'll go back to conserve for a lap or two. Magnussen, I think, we go to neutral just to get a bit of life out of those tyres. And he's got quite a bit of boost here. Now I'm worried about the advance from Perez, but we also want to go forward here. So we're going to use it out of this chicane. And hopefully I'll have a little bit left for the main straight as well. He does, it's not enough to make progress on Verstappen though. But the gap between Perez and the rest of the field is opening up, so at least top 8 seems possible here for Magnussen. Right, we can go back to neutral with Leclerc. I think we've now got a surplus with Magnussen. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that says plus 0.2. So we'll use neutral for a bit and then we can use some fuel if we need it in the last stint. Gearbox is looking okay at 55. Everything looking more than okay on Leclerc's car. He's got quite a bit of extra fuel as well, so we'll go high pace and we'll go push for a couple of laps just to bring those temperatures back up. Magnussen is, as expected, falling back into the clutches of Perez. Perez just uses the RS to get back past, so we will pay him back in kind and we'll gain that 7th place. But this is going to be a bit of a fight with Perez here. Strangely, Perez's soft tyres are actually fresher. even though he put them all on the same lap. So I'm wondering if it's because we're not being aggressive enough on them. Right, Leclerc, we need to go back to 2-speed for these stops. I'm going a little bit quickly again. Right, Leclerc's going to have to pit this time round. It's going to have to be medium tyres then. So hopefully he can get some kind of undercut here on the rest of the peeps. So in he comes. Just suddenly had a thought there was, we didn't check for rain at all, but luckily there is no rain on the way. We're going to use his boost as well on this outlap, and hopefully he can jump some positions with the undercut. Right, Magnussen's probably going to have to come in next time around, and I don't think he can get away with the soft, so he's going to have to go medium, which worries me a little bit on Leclerc getting to the end on mediums, but he should be okay. I think we just haven't managed these mediums very well with Magnussen. He's got a bit of extra fuel to use at the end. We've obviously put Leclerc up to pushing to use that extra fuel as well. So obviously we can save more than two laps of fuel if we need to, it would seem. Right, Magnussen in now. And that's all good with the stop, so that's another mistake-free weekend, which is good news. We're going to go to high fuel mode as well for Magnussen, once again to try and get the undercut. He has fallen behind Perez by around about 4 seconds now, so I think he's fighting for 8th. Leclerc's not too far behind, really. The two in between haven't pitted, so there's around a 7-second gap between them, for which everybody else can drop out into, and sure enough, Kvyat and Massa are in that gap now. Who else have we got to stop? Hulk, Ricciardo, Ocon. So there's still a chance of points for both cars here, as long as these tyres hold up okay. I do worry a little bit with Leclerc's getting to the end with enough rubber to fight those guys around him. He needs to get out ahead of them, and he has done. So he's got out ahead of Ricciardo and Ocon and Gasly. But Ricciardo is for sure going to be on a charge as we get towards the end of this race. So I think we'll probably have to go back to neutral, just cool them down a little bit. Magnussen should have plenty of life in those mediums till the end. Well, I think I've said that before. Okay, everybody else making a stop now. Just Stroll and Vettel still to stop then. And I think Stroll, we've got a chance with Leclerc. How hard do we defend though against Ricciardo? We use his boost. It's going to take some miracle for Leclerc to defend for the rest of the race. Stroll is in now, and I think Magnussen is fighting him at turn 1. He is. Let's use that boost and get him ahead, because that might be the only chance we have of getting ahead of Stroll, because Stroll's going to be on much quicker medium tyres now. 5 laps to go then. We've got extra fuel with both cars. Magnussen is wearing that engine and gearbox a bit quicker than I'd like, but that's not necessarily a problem, as we have no red zone now. Ricciardo has got back past, unfortunately. He's a lot quicker, as you would expect really for the Red Bull. And I can't see where points are going to come for Leclerc really. So we need to concentrate on K-Mag, because we know how we can mismanage his race. Right, we're overheating the tyres a little bit, so we'll go back to conserve for a lap or two. And hopefully he can stay ahead of Stroll long enough to bring those temperatures down, then we can go back to neutral or push. So 3 laps to go. There's quite a bit of fuel left for Leclerc, so I might use overtake for a couple of laps just to use it up. He can see the points. Kvyat is not that far ahead, so we'll see what he does. Right, K-Mag's just lost that position, unfortunately, to Stroll. We'll see if he can hold on. Engine now down to 25%, but that shouldn't be a problem. He will lose performance from it though, of course. So it's just come off the back wing for Leclerc. Not great. Right, 2 laps to go. We're going to go back down to 1 speed. Where is Leclerc then? He looks safe from Ocon behind. I can't see how he... Unless Kvyat becomes a roadblock for Ricciardo, I don't see how he can catch them up. And we definitely can't stay on overtake for the last couple of laps. Magnussen, on the other hand, has fallen away from Stroll then. And that later stop from Stroll just means he's a bit too quick at this stage of the race to fight back. But 8th is good enough, as Renault and McLaren are not scoring. So K-Mag just needs to hold on here for 1 more lap. We need to go conservative with Leclerc. He's run out of tyres, but so is Ricciardo ahead, and he's closing on Ricciardo here with half a lap to go. He's got some fuel to use, so let's go overtake mode. See, he's going to run out of tyres though before he gets there. Got a bit of boost to use from Magnussen. Got a little bit of extra fuel, which we used a bit too late. But I hope you guys can forgive me. I think that was fairly well managed. And he's going to come around the last corner to take 8th place then. That's a great result. Leclerc, by no means should be ashamed with that for a debut performance. P12, it was a fighting result. He dropped behind at the start. Well, dropped all the way back to 20th. As he made a mistake on the first lap. Which definitely didn't help him. And to fight back through from the back of the field to 12th place. So it shows some great fighting spirit and some great speed from the young Monacanese driver. Is that how you say it? Monacanese, I guess. Leave the phonetic pronunciations of that in the comments down below. But all in all, that's a good race. And I think those points are going to help us in the championship as well. So there we go, 8th and 12th. Leclerc just 1.6 seconds off a Red Bull is not bad at all for your first Grand Prix, is it? He's done a good job there. So those points lift K-Mag to 15th in the championship. Grosjean, of course, is a free agent, is still 17th. And Leclerc obviously doesn't score on the debut, but it's the constructors we are really interested in, and sure enough, we've closed up that gap then. So we're 1 point now behind Renault, and just 4 points behind McLaren. So I think Williams and Toro Rosso are gone, and Sauber are never going to catch us unless they have some kind of freak win somehow. But all in all, mission accomplished for that episode. We've caught back up with Renault and McLaren. Got a new driver who I'm feeling confident can score some points before the season's out. And that's what we really need. If we're going to beat McLaren and Renault, we need both cars in the lower end of the points on a regular occurrence. Or at least one or two of the remaining races. So lots of lovely money into the bank. And that will be a wrap for this one then. So yeah, let me know guys what you think of our new signing and who you think. It's just the reserve up for grabs now. So let me know who you think we should go after at the end of the season in the reserve role. Of course, we've still got 5 races to go of the year, and the Constructors is the main aim now. I mean, 9th is what we were aiming for. But I think just for pride and the little bit of extra prize money that will help us out next year, we want to get ahead of McLaren and Renault. So that's what we're going to be aiming for between now and the end of the season. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do hit that like button if you enjoyed the episode. If you're new to the channel, of course, go back and watch the series from the beginning. But you could also hit that subscribe button. It'd be much appreciated. And until next time, thank you everybody for watching. And I'll see you again next time.